Welcome to the Book Brothers podcast, everyone. My name's Adrian aka Boots Too Big on the socials. With me tonight is Mr. David Cardoso, aka Baby Sagan on YouTube. And what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about books. And just to clarify for those of you listening at home and watching on whatever platform you're watching this on, we're not actually brothers. We used to be brothers-in-laws and brothers in arms, if you think about it in a way.
Brothers in arms, yeah.
But we are no longer. But that's okay because people can form friendships, bonds, camaraderie, all that kinds of good stuff. And in this case, collaboration, right, David? So
That's correct. And that's how we got the name Book Brothers. So pretty cool. Kind of cool story
yeah,
there.
we're actually going to sell suits at the end of this. We're going to sell lots of. And I'm talking about the
No
DVD
promises
set of
on that one,
suits.
but
Yeah, we're gonna sell you illegal pirated copies of the hit TV show Suits. No, we're here to talk about books because books is such a
yes,
niche
yes.
hobby. So yeah, we're talking about books because books has become a niche hobby that nobody does anymore. It's like the new vinyl records and stuff.
I feel like it's not so niche, but I mean, it's definitely, I don't know. Books are everywhere, but I get what you're saying that I don't think it's like it's both everywhere, but also I don't think a lot of people go into a lot of depth with books.
Yeah, I think there's some people out there who like you'll tell them, "Oh, I read a lot," and they sort of think you're being elitist. And it's like,
Kind of.
listen, I read sci-fi novels and I read like dumb novels. There's just as
Yeah.
much trashy books as there are trashy TV shows and
Yeah.
movies and music and all
I
that.
actually read, yeah, one book I read a long time was kind of a trashy book. I actually really enjoyed it. So it's like, you never know, just pick up a book and might enjoy
Exactly.
it. So.
So yeah, we're just gonna discuss what we're reading. And right now, this week, I should say, I recently finished the book Paradise One by David Wellington. And if you want to know what the plot for that is, I can tell you that right now. So as soon as I pull it up, Paradise One by David Wellington. Let's see here. When Special Agent Petrov and Dr. Lee Zhang are woken up from cryogenic sleep, dragged freezing and dripping wet out of their pods with the ship's alarms blaring in the background, they know something is very wrong. Warned by the captain that they're under attack, they have no choice but to investigate. It doesn't take much time to learn that they've been met by another vessel, a vessel from Paradise One, Earth's first deep space
Dun, dun,
colony,
dun.
and their final
Nice one.
destination. Yeah, so I just finished it. This is a big book, by the way.
Okay.
I don't
How many
know,
pages
what's the
is that?
longest book you've read?
Longest probably George R. R. Martin, over 1,000, probably like 1,200 words or something like that.
Same, same.
Okay. Yeah.
This book came in at a pretty decent 700 and some pages.
Okay.
Um,
Did you get through them quickly?
Here's the thing. Each chapter is like average like 3 to 4 minutes
Okay.
reading per read per chapter, and it's like I was burning through. The book has like 130
You're a
chapters.
much faster reader than I am, that's for sure.
Well, they're super short is my
Okay.
point.
Okay.
And
That's good.
it was good though. I mean, so here's what I'll say. Here's what I liked about the book. I liked the first third of the book. They really set up the mystery of, who is attacking them, why are they being attacked,
Mhm.
what is going on, why can't we get to the planet Paradise One? There's a real sense of mystery in that first
Mhm.
like third of the book or so. And honestly, it had me hooked. It had me hooked. I think I burned like through 100 and some pages like that. It was nothing. And then,
Okay.
as things sort of start to develop in the story, they go to this other ship to investigate and find out what's going on, and
Mhm.
more and more things start to get revealed. It was interesting, but what I found was that it started to feel very repetitive. And I don't know
Okay.
if you've ever encountered that in a book, but
I mean, I think that can happen if the book is over 700 pages. That can definitely happen. I feel like an editor can come in and slice off a few hundred and, get to the point a little bit.
yeah, and this book I think could have done well if they had cut like maybe a couple hundred pages.
Mhm.
But there were definitely a lot of repetitive beats throughout the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I couldn't put it down because I wanted to know how's he gonna wrap this up? Because I'm like 600 some pages in, and I'm like, this book's almost over, and they still haven't.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert,
700.
they still
Okay.
haven't landed on the planet that the book is
Oh,
named after.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
So here's the
Is it
thing.
about like the planet was called Paradise? So are they trying to get to like a utopia kind of thing? Is that kind
Paradise One.
of like
It's an Earth colony.
Paradise? Yeah.
They don't really describe it as a utopia per se, but it's definitely another planet for humans to live on. So here's what I didn't like. I didn't like the ending because it ends on a cliffhanger that literally says to be continued.
Oh.
Right when they land on the planet, right? They
Yeah.
explore around a little bit, they hear a noise or something, and then it's to be
Yeah.
continued. And I was
Okay.
very upset by that.
That's pretty disappointing.
It
Yeah.
was very disappointing. Other things I didn't like there's a robot character that like basically his body is like 3D printed, so he can like replicate physical bodies of himself as many as he can. And he's kind of annoying. He kind of he like his dialogue is way too like it's way too human. It's like way too smart alecky. I was like, I don't
Mm,
know. It didn't feel
gotcha.
yeah, and then some of the dialogue in general was kind of stilted and believe it or not, I don't know if you've ever encountered this, David, but I found some spelling errors.
Okay.
Or actually no,
Was this a bestseller or?
I don't know if it was a bestseller, but here's the thing.
Okay.
Let me go back. Not spelling errors, but like the wrong words used in
I
the wrong
see. I
context.
see.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Is
Uh,
it self-published or
what's that?
is it
No,
self-published at
so
all?
here's the thing. I think I forget the name of the publisher. It was like Jupiter Press or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
So on the back of the book in the acknowledgments, the author says that it was actually the concept was thought up of in committee, and they came to him and they said, "Hey, we have this idea. Could you take this idea and turn it into a book?" And that's what happened. So it kind of
Okay.
feels like it was developed in committee. I will say that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So Paradise One, that's my review in a nutshell. I'm gonna give this book. I mean, I still was entertained by it, so I'm gonna give this book a strong 3.5 out of 5. That's my rating. What do you think?
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Sounds like interesting. So it's sci-fi, right? So it's like a pure sci-fi. Is there a lot of
Oh,
actions?
yeah, it's like sci-fi horror. Did you ever see Event
Okay.
Horizon?
A long time ago. Yeah. It's been a minute. So.
So it was like a less gory version of Event Horizon, if you can imagine
Okay.
that.
Okay.
There's some, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's some interesting horror, body horror type stuff that
Mhm.
happens in this book.
Okay. Interesting.
So if that's not your bag, I wouldn't recommend it. But I know you're a lover of sci-fi. I know you love space, obviously, Baby
Yeah.
Sagan, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
You might enjoy this book. It's honestly for being a big book, it's a quick read. So
Okay. Cool. Sounds promising.
yeah,
Sounds like a paradise, maybe. I don't know.
possibly. I mean, we
Yeah.
shall see.
But the most disappointing thing to me sounds like that they didn't, like you said, they got there at the end of the book, which is kind of disappointing. I kind of wish they, just from the feel of the book already, it seems like they should have like maybe the first 100, 200 pages set up Paradise, and then they're there for like most of it. Because like you're just setting up this like promise, and now they have to make another book on it, and you have to read another book on it. And it's just like, that
I mean,
feels kind of like,
honestly, yeah, that would have been great. Here's the silver lining, though, is that so there's a sequel coming out next month.
okay.
As of this recording, it'll be out November 2024. So I'm a bit of a completionist, so now I feel compelled to read the
Yeah.
second book just to find out what the
Okay.
heck happens.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting.
So we'll see. You know,
Yeah.
that was yeah, it was. I've never read a book that had that abrupt of a to be. You know, obviously, like there's plenty of books that have sequels, but they're usually a self-contained story,
Mhm.
not So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how good the second book is.
Yeah. The older I've gotten, the more I like self-contained stories. That's for sure. But yeah,
Definitely. If you
okay.
like
So
self-contained stories, you should read Stoner, by the way.
okay, maybe in the future, who knows?
That's a real
Okay,
book.
so I'll get to my book real quick. So yeah, I still love sci-fi. I'm like a fan of sci-fi, but the book that I read most recently was none other than I Am Baby Sagan. So I got Cosmos here, written by the wife of Carl Sagan.
Oh, the white and Andrew
Ann Druyan. Ann Druyan.
Druyan. Nice.
Yeah. Sagan had 3 wives actually in his life, but his last wife, Adrian, they worked on like Cosmos together and did a bunch of science stuff together. So she's a science writer, pretty epic, pretty cool.
Did Sagan
saw this,
have heirs? Did he have kids?
He does have a bunch of kids. Yeah, I think he's like 3 kids, I believe.
Do any of them do anything with space?
One's a writer. One's a writer. Actually, we should do it on the channel. Nick Sagan is actually a writer. He's an author.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I actually read one of his sci-fi books too. I can talk about it. In
Cool.
the future. Yeah.
Well, tell me about Cosmos.
Yeah, so Cosmos. This is the sequel to the Cosmos, the original book back in 1980, and the series as well that Sagan had the TV show with, along with Druyan. I think she was like a producer on the show too. And then now Neil deGrasse Tyson's doing like the new show. I think they did like a second season of it as well. I think.
Mm.
But yeah, I really love like science a lot. I have my YouTube channel, so I do like tons of science content on there. And so like I'm gonna use like a lot of the content in this book because it has a bunch of if you guys are fans of, I don't know if you are, Adrian, fan of like science history and stuff like that. I
Oh,
don't know if you're like
definitely.
a big fan of following science. Okay, yeah. I just love learning about the different like discoveries that scientists have done. And so there's a lot of that in this book. Like I learned about I don't know, I always find like that the older I get, the more like books like this are like the real textbooks of the world. And so I like learning about real science. But some of the scientists that I talk about, one of the guys, his name was Vavilov. He was a Russian scientist. And there's actually this really cool seed vault that he started, and they actually protect all the like seeds in the world.
I've heard
So
about
it's
that.
like I think it's run by the UN or something now or something like that, but they protect all these seeds and have all this research on seeds. So that way, if there's like a big famine, they can actually mass produce them and like send them out to different countries, like in case there's a big famine. And so they talk about the scientist that he fought. One of the he's a Russian, and there's this guy with Stalin named Lysenko, and he was like this big pseudoscience guy, and he caused like a famine in Russia back in
Mm.
like the 30s and 40s because Stalin's a big, not the brightest guy, and
That's what I've heard.
to say the least, among many other faults of his. But then, yeah, so like this Vavilov guy was actually working for science, and he actually fought against the pseudoscience in Russia and protected the seed vaults, and so it's actually continued to this day. So pretty cool. So that was a pretty cool story with him. And then there's also other scientists that I didn't know that Carl Sagan, like a couple of his mentors were, I don't know if you know Gerard Kuiper, if you know the name from the Kuiper belt in the solar system.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that's who it's literally named after.
Yeah, it's named after a dude, Gerard Kuiper. Yeah, so he's a dude that was looking up at the stars and stuff, and he was actually one of Sagan's mentors back when Sagan was like in his 20s. Going to, I think he went to Harvard and then Cornell.
Oh, wow.
So I talked about Kuiper was his mentor, and also another guy named Harold Urey. He's a chemist. He's another scientist. I thought that was kind of cool, just learn about other scientists that I've heard of, and I was like, oh wow, they actually mentored Sagan. So I thought that was pretty cool. The fact that like one of my heroes had mentors at an age too, and I was like, oh, there's people above him,
Oh,
just like my cat here.
what's your cat's name, by the way?
This is Darwin.
Darwin.
Naturally.
Nice.
What's up, Darwin? Talking right now. See you, Darwin.
Hello, Darwin.
Yeah, he's cool.
Let me ask you really quick, since I know Sagan is your hero and stuff, and
Yeah.
hero of many people. How do you feel about Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I really like Tyson a lot. I think he's probably got a better like TV personality because he's even more like playful and like jovial, I would say. But Sagan had I think Sagan had like the epic voice, and he had that like I don't know. I think they both do a interesting job. I would say
Yeah.
I like Sagan a little bit more just because of his demeanor. But
He's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. But
yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, I loved the Cosmos that he did.
Mhm.
I wish they would have done more of that, honestly. I think that's his best work. I've listened to Star Talk. I don't know if you listen to Star Talk.
Tyson or Sagan? Are you talking about Tyson or
Tyson,
Sagan?
his podcast,
Okay.
Star Talk. I stopped listening
Yeah,
a long
Star
time
Trek
ago,
was great. Yeah.
but the Cosmos show that he did was fantastic. And
Oh yeah, Cosmos is great. Like the way they produce everything is like fantastic. But I really like Tyson. I like both of them honestly. I would say Sagan's just more of like a maybe it's because like I was younger when I discovered him, so maybe it's just you have that like nostalgia thing, for like
yeah,
people when you're younger and you learn about them, like oh wow, so it kind of resonates more with you.
I didn't really know who Sagan was until I was like in college, and I
Yeah,
remember I discovered the
yeah,
Pale Blue Dot video,
yeah, yeah.
and that video to this day still gives me chills. But tell me
Yeah,
about this book. So
yeah.
is it about different people, different scientists that have contributed
A lot
to?
of different scientists. Another cool scientist, I'll show up a picture. Is this guy named Carl Frisch, or this is that Carl von Frisch. He studied bees and stuff.
Oh, nice.
There's a whole thing on bees, and the older you get, you're like, "Whoa, this is interesting." Learn about bees because
Yeah.
he studied bees, and he found out that like bees actually, when they do their little buzz dance, they're actually communicating to other bees. So
Oh, interesting.
they're speaking a language to the beehive. And he actually even discovered that they even give like very specific directions. So like if a bee like flies up towards the sun, that shows him to go like in this path. And he'll even like get a precise like, oh, the nectar's over this way. And it'll be very precise with like which tree to go to. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy. And they use that without pheromones. They use that with their dancing communication.
That's
So
interesting.
it's like, are bees? So the question, what I like about Cosmos too in this book, and Sagan talked about it, and Adrian talks about it too, like the idea comes up is like, are animals conscious? Like, are they
Right.
aware? Just
Yeah.
not aware. Like we're aware. We're much more aware, but like, is there some awareness there? And I was like, oh, that's possible. Maybe we'll discover that in 1,000 years. That they actually are conscious. We just don't know it. You know?
Well, that's kind of the problem with being us humans is that we have our definition of what we consider to be
Yeah.
conscious and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sapient, would that be the word? But with
Yeah.
when it comes to
Sentient.
animals, sentient. When it comes
Yeah.
to animals, I mean, they probably have their own version of what that
Probably.
is, you know.
I
And
wouldn't be
here,
surprised. Yeah.
for me, I always thought like if you believe the theory that the world that reality that we're living in some kind of a virtual reality, not a virtual reality,
Yeah.
but what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. A
Yeah.
simulation.
A
If you
simulation.
believe that we're in a simulation, I always think that animals like bees and stuff are like little pre-programmed, thoughts
Or
that
maybe they're
go
like
around.
NPCs or something, so like they're
Yeah,
not as controlled. They're controlled by something else. Maybe
yeah, because
I don't
they're
know.
like they're in real life, in reality, what we consider reality. They're biologically programmed to do one or two
Yeah,
things, right? Like
right,
bees,
right.
they
Yeah,
collect and make honey, right? That's what they
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And so I don't know.
And we
It's
can write books and talk about books and
Yeah, we can
make new
write
art
stuff
and everything
on
and
dead trees
technology.
and talk about that. Although
Yeah,
I like my Kindle now, but yeah. Either way,
pretty cool. Yeah.
um, was there anything about this book that you didn't like? Just curious.
Um, Probably not. I mean, it's too much of a science book. I knew when I saw this at Barnes and Noble, I knew I was going to love it, so I was kind of biased in that way. Um,
Yeah,
I don't think there was really too much. Oh, there was probably the only gripe I would have is she even mentions it in the preface. She's like, "Oh, this, a couple of the points we've talked about before in Cosmos." She just like goes into more detail, or she'll like maybe mention a new story or an anecdote about certain scientists or a certain like new field or something. So like some of the points have been discussed before that I've heard about. So
right.
like a couple of the scientists she talks about like discovered stuff about CFCs in the atmosphere with the ozone layer, and like that was on the original Cosmos book as well. So like some of them was like repeated,
Yeah,
which is fine, but it's done in a new packaging and it has wonderful new images, so I still liked it.
nice. Is
Yeah.
there a narrative through line for the book? Like, is all these stories about all these different scientists, like, does it all tie back to the cosmos, or is it just kind of, section by section?
She kind of has like, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like it ties together. Like, I mean, it's all about science. So she kind of ties different threads throughout each chapter. So sometimes she'll talk about one scientist and then she'll go to another scientist. Sometimes she'll talk about a specific like, oh, we're going to travel to this star with this technology, and then she'll branch off on a completely random tangent about something else, but then she'll connect it back to that slightly. So
Yeah,
she'll have like branching pathways within the chapters as a whole, but as far as like the whole book, it's kind of just all science all the time. So yeah.
I like it, and I like that you're very passionate about that, and that's
Yeah.
obviously
Also,
your.
I wanted to show the Voyager discs as well that she worked on with Sagan. Like they sent it out in the Voyager plaques many years ago in the 70s, and
I
it's
was
out
thinking
in there.
about
So
those the other
it's
day.
pretty cool.
I know there's like a music on there, or
Yes.
it's an inscription of music, or something like that.
Yeah, they put see, what did they put? They put different messages on here. They have different etchings, like scientific, they call them scientific hieroglyphics. They have the address of Earth. They put the address of Earth so that way if the aliens come, they can blast us all. They can know where to take us out, I
I wouldn't blame them if they did.
guess. But yeah, they have different music too. I think
Right.
uh I think what's his face? What's the guitar? Jimi Hendrix. Hendrix, I think, is on there.
Yeah.
I think they have a bunch of different guitarists and musicians.
Well, let me
Yeah,
ask you this really quick, since we're on the
pretty great.
subject. Does it
Yeah.
ever bum you out when you think about, like, okay, the probe that has the golden disc, didn't
Yeah.
it only just a few years ago cross into interstellar space, right?
I think so. Yeah, I'll have to check out the year exactly, but yeah, it was
So
pretty recent. It was within the last like decade, I think.
even though that's a big achievement in
Yeah.
and of itself,
Mhm.
the idea that in the grand scheme of things, the amount that that probe has traveled is almost nothing.
Yeah.
It's like we'll never get it far enough to like it'll never reach like the next closest possibly habitable planet. And
Yeah.
what is it, Proxima Centauri or something like that?
Proxima Centauri is the next star system. Yeah, it's four
Because
light
that's
years away.
only 4 light years away,
Four light
but
years.
it would
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
100,000 years to get there,
Yeah.
or
I
like
forget the
70,000
numbers.
year to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
doesn't that kind
Hundreds of
of, does that
thousands.
ever bum you out that like we're so close but so
Does that bum
far?
me out? I think there was a time back, I mean, we don't have to share how old we are now, but I think when I was like really young, that used to depress me when I was like in my 20s. But then now I'm just older. I'm like, you know what? You just got to push for like the greatest thing that you can achieve in your life, and that's it. And you just let it go after that. So like that to me is like, it's a very poetic way to use science as like we're just sending out our message to the universe, and like maybe someone will hear it. Probably not, but I think I just like the idea that you just strive for something like that. To me, that has like a meaning in and of itself. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I
I
think,
totally get what you're saying, though. It's certainly you are aware how big the universe is, but you have to realize like, oh, we're part of the universe too, and we can do something while we're here too. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I sometimes do think about that.
yeah,
How just the time and space, everything is just, it's so, there's so much space and time, obviously, between us
mhm,
and like so many things that we just will never get to. Like a human will
yeah,
never get to that.
yeah, yeah,
Even if we'd started, like, even if we were constantly sending people out from the
yeah.
start of the space age, they'd still be not even
Right.
a quarter of the way.
Also, yeah, it helps a little bit looking back on history, and you look at like let's take like Kepler for instance or something. He was like studying the planets, like the orbits of the planets. Like
Yeah.
we know more information about what than he ever knew, and we're living in a better time than he ever lived. And so I always think about that too, like the progress it's always happening. So we're living at the best time in history, and we're actually like traveling to other worlds and everything with like robots and everything. So
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
know, a space fact that I love, speaking of our solar system, you can fit all the planets in the solar system between Earth and the Moon with room to spare, from what I've read and from what I've seen. That's crazy
Oh,
to me.
from the Earth to the Moon, you can fit all the planets.
Between the Earth and the Moon, you could
That's
fit all the planets in the solar system.
okay. That's probably correct, honestly. Yeah.
I've
I mean, Jupiter and Saturn would take up most of that space, but yeah, probably
probably,
correct. Probably
but
correct.
it's what I've read, what I've
I
heard
think
from.
Jupiter and Saturn would take up probably like 70% of that space, but yeah, that's probably correct. Yeah.
Hold on, I
Because
gotta
think of,
Google this really quick
yeah,
just to
yeah.
make sure that I'm
Mercury's
not
super tiny,
wrong.
Mars is tiny, so that's probably correct. Yeah. That sounds about
Let's
right.
see. I had to.
240,000 miles to the moon on average.
According to
It's
the scale of our solar
240,000
system, you
miles.
could actually fit all the planets in our solar system between Earth and the
Super
Moon if you line them up all properly. Well, obviously, you would want to line them
properly.
up properly.
Just don't line them up.
Anyway,
Yeah.
do you have a
Pretty cool.
final rating for that book, David?
Rating would be 5 out of 5 or 5 stars out of 5 stars, I would say. So excellent book. If you
Something
love
tells me you liked
science.
it.
Yeah, so I really liked it. So
How
the
many
only thing
pages
is,
is that?
I think it's about 400, or it's like three. Yeah, it's under 400, like 360, 370.
That's relatively short, actually.
You think it's short? I don't know. It's pretty good. There's also
Relative-
lots of great images and stuff. There's like some pictures of old scientists and stuff. So it's pretty entertaining. Pretty cool.
Nice.
Lots of
Well, while we're
wonderful.
on the subject of books, we like books. We like to read books. Both you and I are writers. We both
Yeah.
write. I mostly write screenplays,
Okay.
but I've been dabbling in writing a novel the last year or so. With a lot of breaks in between. Let's just say.
It's fine.
We'll get
Same
into
here.
that. But you actually wrote a novel. But before we get into that, I want to talk about like what is your methods for writing? Are you a pantser or are you a plotter? What works for you, David?
Yeah. So for me specifically, we talked a little bit about this already, like briefly, but yeah, for me, I'm definitely a like a pantser. I just like go with the flow, like absolutely to like the extreme. Like some people are architects and like want to plot everything, have a good outline. When I write what comes to mind. And I also told you this, Adrian, but I also write out of order completely. So
Mm,
like if I have a cool like image or if I have a cool like piece of dialogue I want to write, I like have to write it. Number one, I'll probably forget it. And number two, it just kind of like lights me up. So I have to do it. So like I have to do it in that moment. So I have to capture it. And then often what I'll do is like if I have a really cool line or a cool character, then I'll be like, okay, what does this mean for the story? I kind of like circle it around that once I get a cool idea or a cool like piece of dialogue. Um, and things flow from that. So I'm very much a flowy kind of gardener kind of writer. I kind of like sprinkle seeds everywhere and see what comes up. That's what that's how
I
I
dig that
operate.
analogy. I dig that
Yeah.
analogy. Let me ask you this. What's one of your favorite authors or writers that writes in that style?
Um, I mean, one of my favorite authors is Douglas Adams from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Mm,
I think he wrote in order though. I don't think he wrote out of order. But as a writer, he's probably one of my favorites. But then if you're talking about like style, like I know George R. R. Martin actually, we just talked about him, but George R. R. Martin actually does that, which is crazy to think about with his like 1,000-page books. But
he's a
that's how he comes up.
pantser?
He's a pantser, but he
Oh,
comes up with all these histories. But he does have like he generally has like an idea about the end, so he kind of knows where things are going,
yeah.
and so he kind of gives himself some direction. But he honestly, he said in interviews, um, him and Stephen King are similar, that they're both like gardeners, but George R. R. Martin is definitely like has much less of a plan, where King kind of writes in order while doing the pantser thing, which was interesting. So like King has more of a he forces himself to go in order, but he's going with the flow. Whereas Martin says like, well, if I have a good moment over here, I'm going to write it, you know.
And that's what's
And
interesting about that because you
yeah,
don't have. I think a lot of writers starting out, especially, think that you have to write linearly. No, you don't. In
no,
fact,
yeah,
one of my favorite screenwriters, a guy who teaches one of the most, or has, excuse me, has one of the most successful screenwriting podcasts, John
mm-hmm.
August. He wrote Big Fish. He wrote Go. He wrote
Okay,
the Aladdin movie, the recent one that came out
mm-hmm.
for Disney.
Okay,
He says if you want to write a scene that you like that pops in your head, write it. Who cares where it happens in your story?
yeah,
Just get pen to paper and write that
mm-hmm.
scene. You can always go
Yeah,
back and forth. There's no reason why you have to write linearly.
mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
my brain kind
Yes,
of works linearly.
mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah, we
definitely a
talked about
plotter.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I enjoy. I don't enjoy. I do enjoy, but I have to outline. I'm big on outline,
have to outline.
even
Okay,
if it's as basic as just a couple major plot beats per act. Or in the world of
mm-hmm.
screenwriting, we work in 3 acts per se.
Yeah,
So you plot out your beats per each act, and then you
okay.
write your draft.
So you like to have an idea of even like conflict of like a
I
rising
have
action.
to because
Okay,
I'll get lost in the page if I'm writing a scene.
I see.
I'm like, oh, what's next? Well, wow, let me look at my outline. It's
Yes.
right there. It's a guide. It's not set in stone. Obviously, you can change things
Mhm.
around. You can move things around. You can add
Yeah.
things, subtract
Yeah.
things. But it's a rough guide of what's my next beat. What do I have to hit next? And that's why for me,
Yeah.
I think very linearly in that fashion, and I write very linearly, and
Mhm.
it seems to work for me. For the novel that I'm working on, which is also a sci-fi novel, which is kind of a big, grandiose story.
Okay.
I needed to outline first.
Mm.
I started writing it, and then I got lost on the page, and then I was like,
Mhm.
okay, now I have to do what's called a reverse outline. Let
Mhm.
me outline everything I've written up to this point, and then figure out everything that comes next, or
I
everything that,
see.
that
Yeah.
should come next.
That's definitely so like your method, like being more of a planner like that. There's a part of me that wishes I was more like that, because it can be dangerous being a pantser when you're just going and you get lost. And I've gotten like, we'll talk about it a little bit with my book, but like you just get lost and you're like, where am I going? And you're just like,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun, but it's very dangerous. It's like going out into the woods without a plan. You're just like, let's just find out what's in here. Like,
Yeah.
you just go.
I think the thing people have to remember about writing is that your document, your manuscript or your screenplay or whatever it is you're writing, it's going to be rewritten. It's going to be changed. It's going to
Yeah.
evolve over time. You're not going to just go out to the world with your first draft. The first draft, just think of it, and there's two ways to call it, and I'll use the less disgusting one, trash draft. Think of it as a trash draft, okay?
Trap. Yeah.
Just write whatever, even if it's placeholders, even if you're putting things in brackets and saying figure this out later, and then you just the point is to finish the draft, because a finished
Yeah.
draft, no matter how bad it is better than an unfinished draft, right? So
Right. As long as you're getting something on the page, that's
yeah,
really important. Yeah, and it always will change. Yeah, I learned that the hard way too. You definitely want to have something down. I think pantsers run into the trouble of you could put too much down. One final thing I would say is, for me, that I noticed I could avoid. I think the good thing with pantsing and being a gardener and just like spreading stuff everywhere, you do not run into writer's block.
yeah,
So for any writers out there, it just helps to do that at the very least. Like, I would say though, if you're gonna be like how I did it, it took me a long time to write my book. Have an organization set up. So like, make sure you save it in a certain files and folders where you know where you can find it. Because like, I've gotten in trouble in the past where I write so much stuff where I like lose track of things.
yeah.
That's frustrating. So make sure you have some organization, with your writing tools, like whether it's you or someone watching. But that protects against writer's block a lot. But you get the inverse of that, which is called writer's flood, where you get too many ideas,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
that's that's my problem. And so it's a balance.
You want to hear something wild? Quentin Tarantino,
Sure.
when he writes his scripts, he does what you said. He'll do the writer's flood. He'll
Uh-huh.
write a 400-page draft,
Yeah,
and then he just writes
he just writes.
400 pages, and then he goes
Okay.
back and he cuts, and he cuts it down to like
Okay.
a more
Interesting.
manageable, because
Mhm.
screenplays should be no more than like 140 pages max, maybe
Okay.
160 if you're really pushing it, but
Hmm. Okay.
anything more than 130, that's considered a long
So have you
script.
written a screenplay that long, or?
Actually, yeah. So, my good buddy and writing partner out here, Jordan Spalding,
Okay.
who's on Blue Sky, he's a great writer as well. I
Maybe he
think
can
I'm
join
gonna
us
connect you
sometime.
guys. You guys should meet. I think you guys
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
really
That'd be
benefit.
cool. Yeah.
He and I wrote a script called Dope Flick.
Okay.
It's
Was it
about
dope, or?
it's about an ex-convict turned film student who
Okay.
uses his thesis film as a guise to sell drugs
Okay.
in order to pay back the mob and keep his parole officer from being
Wow.
suspicious. That's the log line, as we call it in the screenwriting world. And when we wrote that, so what was your question about that? I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought on that. You asked,
Uh, what was my question? I don't remember my
you asked
question.
me if I ever wrote. Oh yeah, sorry. You asked me if I wrote a script that was about
Oh, yeah,
that.
that
The
link.
original draft for that script was 135 pages, and I
Okay.
think we managed to cut about 20 pages and got it so we got it down to like 115, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, because
Have
we
you
just
ever
had
shopped that one around at all, or?
no.
Okay.
Well, as you may kind of
Maybe
know
in
in
the
the
future.
book world, in the screenwriting world, it's kind of more of an arduous. There's more gatekeeping built into the screenwriting world than there is in the
Okay.
novel world.
Okay.
Um, that's just kind of the way the system is set up.
Yeah.
And there's gatekeeping in the novel world as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit easier to approach
It's,
a publisher and stuff.
well, yeah.
But yeah, there's gatekeeping on both sides. But
Yeah.
we want to eventually do something with that script and another script we recently wrote called Zombie Cruise. So can you think about what that's about?
Is it a cruise
Two
with zombies?
words: zombies.
Cruise
Cruise.
with
Zombies
zombies.
on
Yeah.
a cruise ship. That's all you need to know.
It's always on a cruise ship. Okay.
We're really
Is
proud
it
of that one.
Is it a horror? Like, is it like very violent, or is
It's a
it kind
well,
of
there's violence.
comedic?
It's a zombie horror comedy. Think like Zombieland type of movie,
Okay, Zombieland. Yeah.
but set on a cruise ship. So,
Okay.
um,
Interesting.
it, the beauty about that script is that story that script writes itself, wrote itself.
Okay. Okay. That's good. And
As
you guys finished that one? You wrote it with him?
I wrote it with him and another friend of ours named Matt. The three of us put our heads together and wrote it. And
Okay.
I think it turned out. I honestly am very proud of that. I'll have to send it to you.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was a
that'd be cool.
tight 90 pages or so, 95 pages, I think.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's a good script, man. It's a fun script. It's a little silly and ridiculous, but that's kind of our style. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
Interesting.
I want to provide some writing advice too, which is use it. Anybody out there listening, use the Pomodoro technique. You know what that is?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing about it. Yeah.
You can
Mhm.
set a timer. The default is like 25 minutes. And for those 25 minutes, you just write. Don't think about turn your phone off, put it on do not disturb, don't go on social media, don't check your emails, text, none of that. Just write. As soon as that timer goes off, it's pencils down. You take a little break, grab a snack, get some water,
Yeah.
whatever, and then if you want to keep writing, just do it at 25-minute increments. For me, it worked great. That's actually
Okay.
how I wrote my unfinished, almost finished manuscript was using the Pomodoro technique. So I highly
Okay.
recommend the Pomodoro. And there's even
Yeah.
a
I've heard
yeah,
good things about Pomodoro techniques. I think that's just a good strategy in general because I know there's like a study techniques which are very similar. You use the Pomodoro where you just study for 30 minutes, give yourself a brain break because you can't realistically. Not many of us are Stephen King who writes for like
no.
he writes 6 pages every day and he usually writes like hours. He says he goes in the morning and he doesn't stop until he gets to 6 pages and he takes him like 4 hours, like 3 to 4 hours, and he does that
In,
every day.
in in fairness, a lot of his books were drug fueled writing sessions, but I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
but each his own, I guess. I don't know.
The new drug of choice is social media, right? Like our
Yeah,
attention spans are so
yeah,
shot these days because of
yeah.
TikTok and YouTube and
Mhm, mhm.
Twitch and still Facebook and Insta and all the social media stuff has kind of ruined our
Yeah.
attention span. I'm trying to get my attention span back. I'm trying to get it back,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's hard.
I
And
do like that's why I do in general. I do like YouTube better. I started my YouTube channel partly because I like the longer form content myself.
yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that's totally there.
So since we're talking about it, tell me two things. First of all, what is your book called and what's it about?
Oh, goody. So we'll talk about your screenplays as well. So yeah, my book. So I'm going to promote my book hopefully on my channel at some point. So my channel kind of appeals to more kids and families, I would say. But my book is more of an adult book. But it doesn't mean it's not like super violent or anything like that. Not really. So the book is, I wrote it for a very long time, probably over like a decade, to be honest with you, off and on, a very
Wow.
long time. Uh,
Wow.
Off and on for a very long time because I'm a flood writer, whatever. I'm a pantser.
Yeah.
So the book is called Project Red Planet. It's a sci-fi comedy novel. I talked to you about it, Adrian, already a little bit. Sci-fi comedy novel. The basic premise is that so as we know, we landed on the moon in reality, but we also know our fun conspiracies. So the moon landing conspiracy in this book is real. So the moon landing was faked and it was filmed, and that's like the opening of my book.
Hmm.
And the whole then rest of the book is about the sequel to that movie. So it's about we're going to Mars and we got to make a movie. We got to trick these humans to we got to it's like a government conspiracy and everything, and they try to trick the public, and so it's all about setting up this movie to trick the public. Because there's aliens involved as well. So there's this whole backstory of there's Greys and there's reptilians involved in the government, and they have a feud with each other, vying for power over who's going to dominate the earth. And so they want to keep their presence a secret from humanity. And so one of the ways they do that is by having this film, because aliens actually live on the. To spoil the book a little bit, but why not? It's you'll read about the aliens very quickly. So there's aliens like on the moon and Mars, and so they want to keep their presence a secret. So there's government involved, and they're involved, and so it's all about that. The main character is an actor, and he's kind of dragged into this film, and he realizes it's all a conspiracy. It's all oh my gosh, and he freaks out and flips out and tries to leave the set. And after that, crazy adventures happen with the government, with aliens. One of the main characters is an alien. He's ridiculous. So yeah, it's just a crazy, fun book. Think Hitchhiker's Guide meets like maybe like Neil Gaiman or something, some fantasy elements as well.
I
So
was gonna say it almost sounds
yeah,
like Wag the Dog in space.
right.
You know, did you ever see Wag the Dog with
I did not,
De
but I know what
Niro,
it's about.
Dustin
Yeah, I
Hoffman?
know all about that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe
Um,
you could say
I
it
love
has
that
that
movie.
element to it. It's definitely not a political. It's definitely not. I make fun of politics for sure,
Yeah,
but it's not a political heavy book. But I definitely make fun of politicians. And if you're upset, if anyone listening is upset with our political system, you'll enjoy it as well. Especially at the end, there's a fun little
yeah.
uh, piece on politicians, throughout. And at the end, there's a funny moment. So
Have
yeah,
you seen Wag the Dog? That's a good movie.
I have not. I got to check it out.
I love
But
that movie.
yeah, right.
It's they had to stage a fake war just for television to distract from a presidential scandal,
Oh, it was like a scandal, right? So they
which
would
is funny because it's a presidential sex scandal, and the
yeah.
I
So
don't know
they
if I'm
decided
allowed
to
to
do
say
it.
this. I don't know if you want me to say this, but it's a scandal that happened in real life, and it happened after the movie came out. So
Okay, yeah.
it's kind of a weird coincidence. Yeah.
Right,
If you're old
right.
enough to remember the '90s, you know which presidential
Yeah,
scandal I'm talking
we
about.
know. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I have an idea, I
The
think.
halcyon days of presidential scandals that
I
actually.
know, yeah. Back in the when the scandals weren't that big a deal, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Not compared to
But your book sounds interesting. It sounds fun. I
yeah.
have read the prologue. The prologue, is it?
Yes. Yes, the
And
prologue you did.
it
Yeah.
was very tongue in cheek. It very
Yeah.
much sets the tone for what you're describing. And I think you know what? I think we need more co- co- comedically inclined sci-fi books. I feel like
I think so,
sci-fi
yeah.
novels are too serious. You know what I mean?
I think
And
so. Yeah, that's why like I always really like Douglas Adams, and actually in the I actually dedicate the book to him because I'm such a big fan. But I love like
yeah,
satire and the comedy with the science.
yeah,
So like a lot of scientists are very serious, but if you notice, like on my YouTube channel as well, I'm very like tongue in cheek and having fun with stuff because
yeah.
life is serious enough as it is, and I'm like, let's just have fun with this thing. Like I don't know, like
Yeah, and science doesn't
just
have to be dry. It doesn't have to be boring. You know, it can be
right,
fun.
yeah,
It can be silly. It can be interesting. Your
yeah,
presentation skills are what matters when it comes to,
yeah,
how you convey information to people, and especially big subjects like, astrophysics and things like that, and how the world
yeah,
works in general.
yeah, for
So
sure, yeah,
I've seen your channel. I've seen your videos. I
yeah,
really like what you do. I think it's great.
okay,
And
yeah,
and honestly, that's the kind of thing that I mean, I'm a big TikTok user. That's the kind of thing that I follow on there. I like that people I like when they can present ideas in a fun and engaging sort of
I always
manner.
like to do science in an artistic way. So I hope I do that with my book too. So hopefully I'll get to show it, at some point. And I do plan on doing like a cool visual because like a lot of the chapters are actually kind of just they're not so like adult themed. So there's a lot of chapters actually just fun for anyone. So I might do like a fun like promo or like preview of the book and do like a cool audiobook visual on the channel. So I might do that at some point too, like in the future. Maybe next year I'll do that on the channel. So yeah. So
Project Red Planet. Look for it in a Barnes and
yeah.
Noble shelf near you.
Yes,
Can you
self-published too.
say
Bro.
where you are? Yeah, where are you with publishing? I mean, can you talk about that?
I will probably self-publish it. My editor's finishing it up, so she's tweaking everything, and she's looked at it for a little while. So she's going to finish it up here this year, and hopefully next year sometime. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Do you plan to write another one?
I don't. I need to give my brain a break. We'll see if they give me the $1 million advance. Who knows? But
Yeah.
that's the other thing. I branched off into children's stories, so I'm doing more children's stories now at the moment. But yeah, as far as novels, I don't have any plans currently. But who knows?
Well, I wish you good luck.
Yeah,
When your novel comes out on Kindle store, wherever, I'll buy it. I'll be the first to buy a copy, and who
sounds good.
knows? You might hit it big with this one, and they're like, we have to have a sequel. Now you're
I know. Yeah, we need a sequel, and it's like, all right,
yeah.
well,
Now you got the right
not gonna
yeah.
be that good. The pressure's gonna be on. I always think about that with writers. Like when you get like if you get successful, like that's gonna be so much pressure to be like, okay, now you got to be successful with the next one. Like
That's one of those good problems, my friend.
I
I
guess
think
so.
that it's actually interesting because there's so many people that write books and publish and self-publish and all that, but only a very small percentage of them actually write as for a living. Like that's their only
Mhm.
source of income.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't say that to discourage anybody out there who is a writer. I'm just saying like that's just real. It's the same thing in the screenwriting world. There's not many people who make a living just writing screenplays. There really isn't. But that
Oh,
should
just
never stop
screenwriting.
anybody from writing. That should
Yeah.
never stop
Yeah.
anybody from creating. You know, so
No. Yeah.
there's always a
Especially if
chance.
you really enjoy it and you like really creating something. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it should always be about your passion for the craft and not
Yes.
whether or not you're going to become rich off
Yeah.
of it. Which if you
Yeah.
do, great. You know,
Yeah.
honestly, that would be that's probably so many people's dreams to make a living from just being a writer. So,
Yeah. Speaking of
uh,
passions, what's your passion projects that you've been working on? So you've been in screenplays.
my passion project is doing this podcast with you, David.
Okay.
That's all.
That's the new passion project.
No, but this actually is a fun thing that we're doing, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a long time coming because we've
I
known each
think
other for
so.
a
Yeah.
while,
Yeah.
you know?
I talked about with you, Adrian, about reconnecting and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool
Yeah,
just to realize like, oh yeah, we have so much in common. Why don't we just like do something?
yeah. You
I
should
don't
move
know.
to Colorado.
No plans. I'm in a fortunate situation right here with my family, so I'll probably
No, I
stick here
totally
for a
get
little
it.
while. But
But someday we'll see. Who knows?
someday, yeah.
What am I passionate? I'm passionate about a lot of things. You know, you know, for me, as far as creative projects goes, I can't talk
Yeah,
tonight. As far as
specifically with
creative
like writing.
projects,
If you about like with writing. Like,
I love writing. Screenplays is my main forte. I've been writing scripts for a long time now. I've really don't.
mhm.
I've only written like three feature length screenplays.
Okay.
But I've written lots of short stuff. I've written sketches. I've written a couple comedy pilots and stuff like that.
Nice.
I like the aspect of being able to create a whole world and a whole world of characters. You know, it's kind of like a God complex in a weird way, right? Because you write these
Maybe.
characters and like
Yeah.
you decide if they live or die. You decide
Hmm.
how you're gonna
Hmm.
torment them, and like torment them in the sense of like you have to make your main character go through trials and tribulations, right? Because
Yeah.
every story is about change, and a character can't change if they don't face conflict. So
Hmm.
for me,
Hmm.
it's like I like the idea of playing that godlike creator
Okay.
who can create.
So it's an ego thing.
It really, you know, in a weird
Maybe.
way, it is, and
Okay.
it's really the only thing in my life that I can fully control is my
Okay.
creativeness,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like I can't control the weather, I can't control the price of bread, I can't
Yeah.
control, you know, who's running for office, but I
Yeah.
can control, dang it, what I write and the
What
characters
you
and
want.
what they
Yeah.
do and what happens to them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very much an ego thing
I'm
because it's
curious.
like,
What about working with others? Like you say, you work with other people on your screenplays.
well,
What about that? Because like, how do you work with that if you can't
well,
control
you
exactly?
that's a good question. I got lucky because my friends that I write with, we
Mhm.
have very similar interests, very similar sensibilities, but we're also very vastly different in how we think and approach problems and stories and whatnot. It's a matter about compatibility, right? It's like
Mhm.
just like in a relationship, you have to find someone who
Yeah.
you're compatible with. It's the same thing when you have writing partners, right? You have to be compatible with them, and I got very lucky that I met these
Yeah.
people. We make for good friends. We have a good sense of humor and shared interests and all that, and we just decided, hey, you know, we get along. We've written stuff. We've shared notes and other stuff back and forth. Why don't we try writing something together? And I don't have an ego about it.
Okay.
I don't get, you know, my ideas get shot down all the time, and that's fine, you know, because collaborative writing is about sharing ideas and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, you
Yeah.
know, spitball.
Yeah.
I always like to spit. I'm a spitballer when it comes to collaborative writing.
Yeah.
I
So am I.
throw
Just
ideas
brainstorm.
out there
Yeah.
and let's see what sticks, right?
Yeah.
And believe me, a
Yeah.
lot of times things don't stick. A lot of times things,
Mhm.
no, that doesn't work. No, that's not good. And that's fine. You know, I know that it's not coming from a place of you suck as a writer. It's coming from a place of it doesn't work for this story.
Yeah.
But you figure it
I feel
out.
like there's a place for everything in a story. So when you're brainstorming, you know, maybe that idea will work with something else, you know? So you never know.
Exactly. And I've had plenty of ideas that I've pitched where like that's good. That works. Let's use that. Let's go with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, my writing lately with these screenplays that I mentioned has been very collaborative. The novel that I'm writing is different. The novels are very much like a one person show, right? But
Okay.
I still share notes and I share stuff and I share chapters with people and I get feedback
Yeah. Mhm.
and that's very helpful too. But it's kind of interesting how writing can be a very one man show kind of thing, but it can also be collaborative,
Kind of, yeah.
and
So
yeah,
the screenplays that you've written, have you sold those at all, or are you going to shop them around at all, or
we're
did you want to
we're
promote the
we're
screenplay,
attempting to
or
shop them around. Yeah, because
okay,
there's like smaller production studios and companies that produce the level of screenplays that we've written, and it's just easier. It's easier said than done because it's
yeah,
there's so many people out there who write screenplays and that are trying to get them made, and it's very much Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
that's it. That's just, and I'm sure even if as a self-publisher, I'm sure finishing your novel was hard. Getting
yeah.
people to like want to read it and getting an
It's
editor, I'm
yeah,
sure was its own task. So
yeah,
um, really everything comes down to marketing, I think, right? You got to know how to market your book to the right audience and reach the right audience, right? So
yeah.
that's kind of where everything comes down to nowadays. I follow a guy, Jason Pargin is a writer I follow him on TikTok. And he talks about how with his books and stuff, the writing of the book itself is like a small percentage of what he actually has to do to
Okay.
get the book out there.
Uh-huh.
Marketing is such a huge part
Most
of
of the
it.
time is marketing. Yeah.
And yeah, and it helps that he was a successful writer for like one of the biggest comedy websites, crack.com for a while.
Okay.
And he pivoted that into being an author and a social media, I guess you'd call him a content creator slash influencer or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, marketing is
Yeah,
important.
marketing is a full time job for sure. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like we're a great time. It's a great time to market because of the internet. So you can go on podcasts, you can go on all these shows and everything. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like yeah, you're gonna have to invest like probably half your time into just marketing the book just so people hear about it. And then a sliver of those people will read it. So you're trying to get as many eyeballs on it as you can. So
Exactly. And
yeah.
that's why I need to finish my trash draft for my novel so that I can eventually focus on
Okay.
marketing because
So have you? So you haven't finished it yet. So your
no,
novel's not done. Okay.
I'll tell you
How many
this.
pages?
I have like the final third of the book to finish.
Final
And
third.
the reason why I haven't done it because it's a daunting task because I kind of set myself
It
up for
is.
that. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the I know what happens. I know how it ends. It's just a matter of getting it on the page, right?
Okay.
And it's a big set piece that is it's gonna take me some time and effort to get it done. But
Okay.
next week is November, Nano
Oh
Rimo,
yeah, we got national, yeah, novel
National
writing
Novel Writing
month.
Month.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that my goal to have it
Okay.
completely finished, the first draft
Cool.
of that
I'll
manuscript
hold you
by
to that. We'll have a podcast next month. Then we'll have,
I think so. I think so. And
in
then
the
and then,
middle
then
of you writing, finishing up your novel.
yeah, we'll get an update on where your novel's at and
Yeah, yeah.
see where we're at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
What's the name? What's the name of your novel? Do you have a tentative title for your
I
book?
do. You're gonna love
Okay.
this, David. It's
What is it?
called The Essence of Time, Volume
Is
1,
it? Oh,
Conquest.
Conquest was the last part.
The Essence of Time, Volume 1, Conquest. That's the name of the book. It's a
That's a long.
mouthful. It's a mouthful.
There's lots of like colons and stuff in there. So, yeah.
I know it's a lot, but
Plus subtitles
it's
and
a
that.
big story. It's an expansive story.
The essence of
And I just feel like that title serves the kind of story that it is. I don't know what else I could call it, but I'm gonna call it that for now. Maybe it'll change, but
maybe we'll brainstorm. Maybe like our next podcast, we'll come up with some different titles for your book.
I'm open to that.
Brainstorm some ideas.
I'm open to that. But it's a
The essence.
sci-fi novel. It's about this group of spacefaring society on a repurposed colony ship discover a planet that is habitable, and their home planet, is kind of dying. Right?
Okay.
It's not Earth. It's a different planet that people went to way after Earth, was done. And now they've discovered this new planet. The problem is there's people that live there. There's intelligent human life, and
Okay.
they're sort of stuck in the pre-Columbian age. Think Aztecs versus conquistadors, but
Okay.
in space.
Star Trek. You're talking about a Star Trek episode.
Well, not literally in space. I mean, the spacefaring people obviously are, but the story is about our main character discovered she goes down to the planet to look for a missing comrade of hers, I say comrade, colleague of hers, and in doing so, she discovers this society of people living there and their struggles and the brewing war that's gonna break out between them and stuff. So,
Okay. Sounds
that's
intriguing.
in a nutshell. Yeah, it's a big allegory for colonialism and
Gotcha.
even
So
imperialism, you know.
it could have like echoes of Avatar, maybe. I don't know.
There's some parallels
Mars,
to
maybe.
that sort of, yeah.
But they're not blue, right? So these people aren't blue.
No, they're not blue.
All right. This is very different.
Marvel did that with Black Panther 2 when he made
Oh.
the Aztecs blue sea creatures.
Okay.
No, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. And
Sounds
I'm really happy with what the concept and I'm happy with what I've got so far. I have some plans to kind of rewrite it a lot actually, the first act especially.
okay.
But
Um,
yeah, the essence of
cool.
time,
Essence
EET.
of Time.
And by
I
the
have a
way,
quick
this has
question.
been in my head for a very, very long time now, like for more than
Okay.
10 years, for like 20 years probably.
Okay. When did you start writing it?
Last year,
Last
last
year. And it's been in
November.
your head that whole time.
It's
So
been
you
in my
kind of
head for 20 years,
pieced
like
it together.
the basic concepts, the concepts of a novel
Concepts of a novel.
have been in my head
That could
for
be the name
20
of the podcast.
years.
Concepts of a novel. I
E-
have
e-
concepts of a novel.
Exactly. And it took me to all more than 20 years to finally start writing it. So,
Oh, wow, cool.
yeah. So similar
It
to
took
how,
me. It took me. Yeah. So it took me like 10 years to actually. I actually was writing it, but I was like I said, I was off and on writing it, and I was doing
right.
writer's blood, so I had to reorganize, and I would take breaks. So like I was very sloppy with it. That's why it took me so long. But you actually had the idea, and then by the time you actually wrote it, it's actually taking about a year to write most of it. So what
Yeah.
would you say, like 70% of the way
Well,
there? So
yeah,
75%.
I would say so. What took the longest
Okay.
for me was figuring out like what is the crux of my story? What is it? What am I trying to say here? What's the message?
Yeah,
And the
that's a hard one,
message,
especially with novels. I found that out too. Like the longer it goes, it's kind of hard to like, what's my core here? Because you gotta
yeah.
follow
Yeah.
that thread. The more pages you go.
My message it's definitely about imperialism and colonialism. That's
Okay.
it. That's the main through line of the story. I sort of work with other themes and but those two are probably the biggest things
Okay.
thematically that are in my
Nice.
story because it's
Sounds
something that's very important to me. I am a little bit of a history buff,
okay.
and I'm of Spanish and Mexican descent. You're of Portuguese descent,
Portuguese.
and as the Spanish and the Portuguese, they did a lot of stuff back in the day, right? And
Yeah. Not super nice stuff.
not
Yeah.
super nice things to
Yeah.
indigenous people, and we have to kind
Right.
of like reconcile that and acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And for me, I love Spanish history and I love Mexican history, and there aren't a lot of novels that ever sort of touch on like Aztec and Spanish era culture. It's always like a lot of
Mhm.
English, European centric, but you don't ever see a lot of Spanish or pre-Columbian centric like
Mhm.
stories. So
Yeah.
I thought maybe this could be the first big novel that touches on that culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sounds interesting. Yeah.
There is a novel on my bookshelf right now called Aztec that I need to read, but
Okay. Sounds cool.
besides that,
You can
there's
even think about. I would. It would be cool to like on another planet. Imagine if you like. This is me just like brainstorming ideas, but it'd be cool to like. Oh, there's like ruins of an ancient civilization on another
uh,
planet.
it's
That could
funny
be
that you
part of
say that.
that's your next book.
It's
I don't
funny that
know.
there's
It is.
sprinklings of an ancient bygone alien civilization in my story,
All right.
but it's like it's in the background,
Okay.
and it will become important later. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that, David,
Cool.
because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gave me
I
some of
just
it,
That's always a great backstory. I always like that. So yeah.
for sure. Well, David, I think we're good on. I think we did it. I think we got one in the can. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to talk about? Anything that?
Final thoughts for the day: do more science, read more science, like Cosmos. Read my book in the future. Read Adrian's book in the future. And if you're a writer out there, just write which and if you don't know it, write it to the best of your ability, because you never know if you could learn something or get better at it. Um, and again, my final tip would be just do like writer's flood, but maybe do it in a controlled manner, so you don't take 10 years to write a book. So.
That's great. That's great
Yeah.
advice, David. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Where can the good people find you online?
You can find me on YouTube, Baby Sagan. Started the channel. I have almost 50 videos now, so it's slowly growing. So hopefully it becomes big and ginormous. I also have a TikTok and an X account, Twitter account as well. So yeah, mostly
I
on YouTube.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love all those platforms. I'm on all of them as well. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Threads and Blue Sky and X and all that
yeah.
stuff. But
I still call it Twitter.
I host a podcast called the Never Seen It Podcast, and
Mm.
we review movies. We talk about movies.
Oh,
You
you do
remember
movies.
those, right?
Yes, yes. I still watch movies.
Never Seen It. The Never Seen It Podcast on TikTok. We're on there. I'm actually writing a movie review right now that I'm going to record very soon here. So
Okay.
check
And
that out.
you have book reviews too, right?
And book reviews as well. So I'm going to start. I need to start a blog or add a blog section to our website, but neverseenitpodcast.com. You'll find our podcast links on there, and we're going to, start sharing more content on there. So
Yeah.
that's it. That's the one, man. That's our inaugural episode for the Books Brothers podcast.
Yes.
We will create some social media for this podcast, I presume.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah.
But for now, we'll be on Baby Sagan on YouTube. So check us out on there. Check me out on there.
Yeah.
Boots Too
Cool.
Big on YouTube. So anything else, David, or are we good?
I think we're good. See you guys next time. Thank you, Adrian.
Reading in the sky. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
Not
play
the
a
bar
song.
burn. All right.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.